It's qualifying day here at Macau, and we are about to see single-seaters going out onto the circuit for the first time today. The Sands China Formula 4 Macau Grand Prix. We have to look forward to that at the end of action on Sunday. The highlights of the race weekend for the Macau Grand Prix gets underway at 3:30 in the afternoon on Sunday afternoon. But the cars are going to be competing today for qualifying. 2 qualifying sessions, both of them over 25 minutes. And at 2:20 this afternoon, they have Q2.
So green flag is waved. Everybody ventures out onto the circuit en masse here. There's no waiting for clear track space, Alan, is there? Everybody needs to be out there because they lost 25 minutes of running effectively yesterday when free practice 1 was curtailed just as they started a flying lap and wasn't resumed because it was a sizable accident that did for Baisel Ling, and we may not see again for the rest of the weekend. So now they need to be out there and circulating and getting a banker lap and try and keep out of trouble. It's a really competitive entry this year because you've got the top 2 from last year. You've got Charles Leung looking for 3 wins in a row and make history in so doing. But you've also got Gerard Shears, the man that is rather dominating the Formula 4 Chinese Championship, of which this is a round. So down towards Lisboa they come, and 1 or 2 there, keeping out of the way because they want to try to get themselves in clear space. Others running as a pack. And you've got the out lap you can ignore. It's the one after this that's going to be the first one of relevance. Everybody, remember, has the same sort of car in this, the same base model, the Macau M14 F4 chassis. And there is going to be the first casualty of the session because Lu Duan, the Honda Cup China endurance racer, is in the wall down at Lisboa. And that for Jimmy Lowe is, I rather fear, going to be a red flag. So we will see. The car is in the wall. It's going no further. The crane might be able to get it out of the way quickly.
Can do that, you know. Yeah. It might just be that they can keep this session alive.
It's not so much where the car is, it's the jeopardy you put the marshals in attaching the rope, because if they've got to go trackside, that's when it becomes an issue. But we'll see. Because it's a small field, relatively, that might just help because it will give them the time. There's no red flag as yet, at least on the timing screen. So,
no, which is positive, isn't it?
It is. They ventured out with, I think, Andy Chang being one of the first out. He's the man that's been runner-up for the last couple of years. And yes, the car is going to be retrieved. They're on their toes today, the marshals at Lisboa.
So impressive, isn't it?
Yeah. Up.
It's never elegant, is it? But it's very effective.
By gum, it's efficient.
It really is, yeah.
Right, so the road is clear.
That's
excellent.
Amazing.
And that therefore means that the car of Jimmy Liu is going to be at the back of the grid provisionally because it can get no Q1 time. It's got all to do in Q2. Right, is this going to be a Charles Leung pole position or Gerard Shee? Where's your money going?
Well, I'm not going to put my money anywhere because what we were given yesterday was a 3-way battle in free practice. It felt like qualifying yesterday, didn't it?
Yeah.
Because they didn't get their first free practice session. Then they all sort of had, if you like, a wagged finger from race control to behave early on in the session when they were getting tyres up to temperature. They weren't allowed to outlap, and there were yellow flags, therefore, all the way around the lap. And it worked because we had a really good session, and we did have a proper battle with the 3 that coming into this weekend we would expect the battle to be over the course of 4 days.
Absolutely so. Well, there, number 2 is the car of Patrick Sang going through, the Champ Motorsport car, single-seater regular, and 3 wide as they come down towards Mandarin. This is pretty brave stuff. 1 or 2 trying to get a toe at that point of the circuit, which will work in your favour. And in the midst of all of that, Gerard Shee one to watch, and so too Charles Leung. As I say, these are the 2 star drivers, very much of the either recent Macau Grand Prix or the Chinese F4 Championship. There's another run to the inside line there. Look, 27, Li Si Chang, 3rd last year.
Oh, just running out of space, but not, managing to collect it all together. That was a little bit marginal going into Lisboa. And that's the classic single-seater site, isn't it? The slip out from the, just jinking out from the slipstream and into the braking area for Lisboa. Classic overtaking opportunity on the gear circuit.
Get it right, you're a hero. Get it wrong,
yeah,
and it becomes very messy indeed.
It does.
So at the end of this lap, we'll start to see proper lap times. The car that was virtually destroyed yesterday of Ling not out again, so I do think that's gone for the weekend now.
Yeah, it was in very sadly, and so early in the weekend, multiple parts, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The back end detached from the tub of the car, which is essentially what the cars are meant to do. They're meant to break apart in that way. So, yeah, all too much.
So this is the first proper flying lap. Yesterday, the second session, which is the only session really that was of any relevance, got the cars down to 2 minutes 30, and it was Andy Chang who perhaps surprisingly was the quickest, because in the last couple of years he's rather struggled to get that last tenth away from Charles Leung in terms of pace. Charles himself, though, was only third fastest yesterday, so he comes here obviously with a big reputation, but he didn't quite deliver yesterday. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the remaining 19.5 minutes.
And we talked yesterday as well about the opportunity for Charles to go into, really go into the Macau history books. 2 back-to-back titles, a hat-trick, one after another in 2020, 2021 and 2022 would be quite a prize, wouldn't it?
It would indeed, and would make history in so doing, as there, jinking in and out the traffic, Qing Zhefang, who was 4th in the race last year in the Grand Prix itself. He's been another F4 China regular this year. So the target time offered up by Li Xichang, which is 2:37.199, but we're going to get much better lap times than that as we go through the session. Andy Chang goes second, Gerard Shi goes third, Charles Leung goes 4th, but that'll all change as the cars get lighter on fuel and as the Kumho tyres on which they all run get up to temperature. They've all got the Geely built engine, they're all in the same Miguel chassis, so it's a really good level playing field, this.
Andy Chang's time yesterday in free practice, the only full free practice session, was a 2:30.188. Compare that to Lisa Cheng at the top of the times, 2:37.199. There's much room for times to come down in the sunshine here at Macau. Q1 now, Q2 at 2:20 this afternoon, and we can expect 2:37 time to come down on this lap. Just looking at the graphic on screen for the 56 car of Zheng Tu Peng, and going personal best in the first sector, 4 sectors around the gear circuit. Looking at the 56 car being followed by the 82 car of Yuan Chu Yeo, Hong Kong, China, and they are now on their second flying lap in this Q1 session.
But that's a good opening lap for Li Xicheng to be fastest, 2:37.1, because he's nearly a second and a half to the good. So I think that time will be beaten as you look at the car in the background of Royce Yu, but it's a good opening salvo, that. The one that didn't get a time, of course, now with its damage is that of Lu Duan, Jimmy Lu. So he's got to do it all over again, or do the hard work rather, in the second session. Right, so the next wave heading up towards the line, including there, look, number 8, that is Andy Chang, fastest in FP2, and he has done an absolute best in the first sector, so this should put him up to provisional pole position as he comes across the line. It does, but he's got a very fast Charles Leung in the background, who I think is going to go even quicker then, and Charles Leung breaks the beam, goes to a 2:30.293, so Charles Leung quicker by 0.3 of a second. So it's Leung, Chang, and then Xi, the top 3 now.
And the 3 that we were going into this weekend rather expecting to be battling it out, they've all got their huge amount of speed around the gear circuit. That's been proven already in the course of just free practice and the start of this qualifying session, but they are all very, very successful in what they're achieving in their racing during the year as well. So it's a proper battle between these 3.
But the pressure is on Charles Leung, isn't it? I mean, he's won it for the last 2 years, so people expect him to win it again, and there's the pressure of doing 3 in a row, which nobody's ever done. Yes, he's the fastest, but it's not going to be a walk in the park for him. There's number 3, Gerard Shea, who has absolutely been mighty in F4 China this year. 7 wins out of 8 races, which is quite something.
Yeah, a very, very impressive record in 2022 in this category, and they do look nimble. We got used to, for so many years, having Formula 3 cars around the Macau, and of course the last year that we had Formula 3 cars, 2019, was the year that we had the current iteration of the FIA Formula 3 cars. Big car. In comparison to these little nimble Megals, well, there is certainly room with these cars to overtake in not just one part on the circuit.
I still think, given how many nations, how many regions have Formula 4 now, that there's a very good case for the Grand Prix to be for these cars when international travel becomes as easy as it used to be, because then you can have people from all over the globe coming to Macau for a kind of shootout, as the Formula 3 Grand Prix used to be. But right now, it is a local field, and as we said yesterday, quite a few of the drivers are able to come and race in the Grand Prix, which they wouldn't be able to do in Formula 3. You know, you've got the likes of Brian Lee in this, who's been a GT champion in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia this year. And here he is as a single-seater racer for the 2nd year in a row. Now, Charles Leung heading up towards the timing line. Ahead of him is Gerard Shi, number 3, who is 3rd fastest. He has been quickest in every qualifying session in the Chinese Formula 4 Championship this year. And up towards the timing line, Gerard Shi goes through and puts himself to the top of the times then. So Gerard Shi does a 2:29.497, 46 thousandths quicker than Charles Leung. He means business.
Certainly does. So number 3, top of the times, Charles Leung with a 2:29.343. Everybody improving. This is great to see, and they're getting in a groove now. They've got just under 14 minutes of this 25-minute Q1 session remaining, and because they haven't got 32 cars, because they have 15 cars on circuit, you are able to find that clear space, so there's something to be said for it.
Absolutely right. And Gerard Shi, I think, having done that pole position time, has now backed off. Lets the tyres have a breather. Might be able to go again. You can see he's down in the first sector, so ignore this lap from him. It's not going to be representative of his pace. So it is Shi, Leung, Chang, the top 3. Andy Chang, who was quickest early on, has now dropped to 3rd fastest. And the 2:29.4 compares with the 2:29.1 that was the best motorbike time that we had at the start of the day. Just to
What was it?
2:29.1
was
best bike time. Yeah. So just to compare and contrast. Interesting, isn't it? I thought more strife in the wall. There is Patrick Tsang. He's lost it coming out of Mandarin by the look of it. He's facing the wrong way, and look at the tar marks. You can see where he's been all the way across the road.
Yeah, telltale.
Yeah. So the Champ Motorsport car rather is going for the moment no further, and let's hope that he can rejoin, otherwise it's going to be an interruption to get the car out of the way.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get the car fired up again. It didn't look as if it was damaged, did it? Just looked like a spin, and the car facing the wrong way. Here we go. I don't think it touches anything. No, just a pirouette.
But he hasn't finished yet.
A double pirouette.
Yeah, and I think you're right. He managed to keep away from everything solid. But that was a big, big moment coming out of Mandarin, isn't it? That's a proper Code Brown moment.
It really is. And those tyres are not going to be fresh as a daisy now.
No. Another one has ground to a halt there, coming down towards Arbennes, which is a very odd place for Wei Cho-in to stop. And stop there, that suggests mechanical problem, doesn't it?
It does rather, yeah.
All right, so Charles Leung goes over the timing line, but slightly impeded by that stranded car. And Andy Chang also still trying to improve. The lap times are coming down, but let's see what happens to that stranded car on the road.
Quickest motorcycle time was 29.1, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so 29.4 at the moment for Gerard Shi. Top of the times, 0.046. Behind is Charles Leung.
But Andy Chang doing an absolute best in the first sector now. So number 8, Andy Chang, whose best lap is a 2:30.0, digging deep, but responding here. He's got clear road. He's got the tyres nicely up to temperature again. And there he is, coming over the brow through the Solitude S's, another of the Champ Motorsport drivers, a regular in single-seaters over the years. Had a spell in Europe driving in the FIA Formula 3 Championship.
And clear track in front is the important thing at the moment, as Andy Chang goes through the Solitude S's. This twisty, very technical part of the circuit. The barriers seem to get closer, the walls seem to get closer, the track gets narrower, and they're climbing.
But he's down in sector 2 as well, isn't he? So down towards police. Charles Leung behind him. He's on an absolute mission. Look, he's brought that gap right down. Trouble is, he's now going to get held up because Andy Chang is going slower, and so Charles Leung's lap may ebb away through no fault of his own.
I think it will. Yep, absolutely right. And they make their way around Donna Maria. This needs to be rethought for the next lap. And yep, purple in sector 1 for Andy Chang, and then nothing for sector 2. And that wonderful clear track in front for Andy Chang.
In fairness, he's got the good grace to get out of the way.
That's really cool.
Yeah, let Charles Leung go, and he goes back to warming up his tyres. Interesting that he feels that he had to abandon that lap, though.
And there was no obvious reason why.
No.
It might just have been that he didn't like having Charles Leung quite so close behind.
Possibly. And look, Charles Leung's second sector, an absolute best, but either side of it, no improvement.
Oh, that was catching Andy Chang, wasn't it? Yeah.
So he goes through 3/10 down. It is Gerard Shee the fastest again from Charles Leung, and Gerard Shee goes quicker again, 2:29.483 now. So he's only 600ths to the good, but the qualifying king out of F4 China this year, living up to his name.
Or was it that Andy Chang didn't like the idea of pulling along Charles Leung to a quick lap?
Could have been, but he was heading through a section where he wouldn't get a tow.
But he would coming out of the Macau hairpin and down towards the line. So just potentially, well, the situation has gone now because they have broken apart, and the session has 8 minutes and 20 seconds of the Q1 qualifying session remaining. There's something right about a single-seater around the gear circuit, isn't there? Great to see. Great for the crowds as well. Friday morning, just gone 6 minutes past 10 in the morning, and make no doubt at all there will be crowds around the circuit in the grandstands enjoying a spectacle that comes to Macau just once a year. And it's superb that we now are back to a 4-day festival of motorsport from the Macau Grand Prix.
Well, Gerard Shee, who has not raced here before, is looking very, very impressive, because to go fastest on a 2:29.483, putting him at the top of the times on his first appearance here, it's a very, very strong effort indeed. 7.5 minutes on the clock, and Gerard Shee just quietly getting on with the job here, isn't he? He's doing very good lap times. He's not making mistakes, although there's a big, big tyre squeal. Oh, hello, we've got a car off at the Macau hairpin. That's why there's been tyre squeal. Is that Charles Leung?
It looks like it. Just at the bottom of the picture there, you can see the telltale green on the top of the car. I think it was. Now, that's not something we've been accustomed to over the last couple of years, is it?
No, normally Charles Leung is the benchmark driver.
The metronome of the grid.
Yeah. So hopefully he can recover from that drama down at the hairpin without having picked up any damage. So Gerard Shee heading now up towards the timing line. And an absolute best in sector 4.
Wow. Yeah. A 2:28.8, the time for Andy Chang now on top of the times. Andy Chang, Carnabrate, the car you're looking at now, the all-red machine. Carnabrate, Andy Chang in the Champ Motorsport Macau, top of the times with a 2:28.8. Impressive, that. And we go faster than bikes.
Hooray. So into the 2:28s, as you say. And yeah, Andy Chang perhaps realising that this is the year he's got to do it. And just when he realises it's that, he's got more opposition. It's not just Charles Leung he's got to beat, but the very impressive Gerard Shee. And there is the car of Is it Charles Leung?
It is, yeah, number 11.
Out of harm's way, yeah. And with damage at the front, so he has made a mistake. Pressure getting to him, perhaps.
Which we have not seen.
No.
We've not seen that. It was metronomic, wasn't it, last year? The gap was controlled at the front. Andy Chang doing everything he possibly could to close the gap, but Charles Leung was just really in a class of his own last year. Very, very impressive. And this, make no mistake, this is going to put the whole momentum of the weekend a little behind.
Yeah, the Blackjack team runs Charles Leung's car. They've got to rebuild it. They've got to get the setup absolutely right going into Q2. He's only third at the moment. Now remember that the better time counts for the grid for the qualifying race, the results of which determine the grid for the main race, which is Sunday's Grand Prix, the Sands China Formula 4 Macau Grand Prix. But Andy Chang on a slow lap, and it's going to get slower because there's traffic ahead. It was a non-lap anyway with the yellow sectors, but there's a very, very slow car ahead of him.
Slow.
Yeah, which again does get out of the way, but the lap affected. Four and a half minutes. He's got time to go again.
And that's the car that currently is on provisional pole, a 2:28. The only car in the 28s, 2:28.868 for Andy Chang. Car number 8, Chang Wang Chung. 2:28.868 compared to that last lap. That slow lap was a 2:34.094. Under 4 minutes of this Q1 session remain. And the green lights indicating this has been a session which remarkably has been without interruption, which is really good news. They can
You've done it now.
well, no, they can't hear me. It's fine. We'll get away with it. But you need that to get into the swing of the session. Tyres up to temperature, brakes up to temperature.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, this is, if you like, the dark horse, Li Cheng, because he was third last year. He's fourth in the times. So he is, if you like, the best of the rest after that top trio that we've been discussing. But he's got good pace, as a podium in the Grand Prix last year would suggest. So he's on his way now down towards Lisboa. He improved last time anyway on a 2 minutes 30.874 to go, fourth fastest. Fights the car under braking, close to the wall, flicks it right. Nice line through Lisboa.
Yeah, really nice line, quick.
Absolutely, now has to get that momentum nailed, so he's got the drag all the way up Reservoir Hill, but up San Francisco Hill, I should say, but the clock ticking on down. He's got one more lap to squeeze out at the end of this, hasn't he?
Yeah, I reckon you're right. We've got 2:40 left on the clock, and it looks to be a relatively clear track in front. Tyre squeal there. Getting some great sound effects this year from the trackside cameras. And high definition sound as they're close to the tyres working around the circuit, and that's good to hear. Another little screech from the tyres through this. This is committed, isn't it? That was pretty close to the barrier, that one.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a curate's egg of a lap, isn't it? Because he did a personal best in Sector 1. He lost time in Sector 2. I would say there he was a little bit wide on the approach to police, but he gets away with it, flicks right, climbs the hill again now. And as he comes up towards Moorish, so Li Cheng looking to improve the time to get himself onto third if he can, but in order to go ahead of Charles Leung, he has got to find over a second, and that's going to be a big ask, especially as he's lost ground in Sector 2. Andy Chang, in the meantime, has got less than a lap time left in the session. And this has been a good lap, look, with two absolute bests.
A really good lap.
Yeah, let's see what he can do here. He's going to try and improve on a 2:28. He comes up towards the timing line. And can he get into the 2:27s? He can! A 2:27.627. Great lap then.
Super stuff. This qualifying session for Andy Chang has just gone from better to better to better. Absolutely brilliant.
That puts him a second and a half quicker than Gerard Shee. That is a massive margin, bearing in mind they're in identical cars. Now, I know that Andy Chang knows the circuit much, much, much better than Gerard Shee, but even so, that's a big margin.
He's got another lap if he wants it, because we've now...
no, he's not, because he's got a yellow flag zone, because there's a car well in the wall, red flag. And that'll be the end of the session with only a minute to go. But there's a car in the wall.
Brian Lee?
I think you're right, number 14.
Yeah.
This year's GT4 champion in the GT World Challenge Asia. So red flag, and Andy Chang, talk about timing, just got that lap in before out came the red.
I once said to a driver following a qualifying session, because they had perfectly timed when to go out for a qualifying session, and I said in the post-qualifying interview, that was all about timing. And he looked at me and said, that's pretty much what qualifying is all about. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Point taken. I won't ask that one again. Andy Chang, superb. Absolutely superb.
Yeah.
2:27.627, 1.5 seconds better than the rest of the field. That's, yes, well deserving of a thumbs up at the end of that session.
But with Charles Leung in strife, then it's going to be a very interesting second session, isn't it, to see what he can do to try to fight back from there.
Still ended up the session in third place, and I suppose we can reiterate what we said before the session got underway, that this battle that promised before we headed actually onto the circuit this weekend, the battle between these three is proving to be magnificent to watch even now, and completely unpredictable.
So quite a few cars in strife. What, of course, with the car of Lu Duan in the wall early on, Charles Leung in the wall midway through the session, and then Brian Lee in the wall at the very end. So the teams are going to be busy with repair work before the second session to come later on in the day. Of course, we've also got the second qualifying session to come for the motorbikes, which have been a very welcome return to the timetable this weekend. That's how Brian Lee ended up in the wall, just slightly wide, wheel on the dirt, lost traction, and the car, quicker than he knows, flicks across the road, headbutts the wall. Doesn't do that much damage, but it's enough to put him stranded by the side of the track and stop qualifying.
You can't really afford a mistake at Macau. Macau bites,
yeah.
And Brian Lee just discovered that. Yep, little error, rear touch, and then, yep, game over for the rest of the session. So, red flags. We were almost at the end of the session anyway. Cars onwards and inwards into pit lane. But the story of that qualifying session was really the magnificent pace in Q1 for Andy Chang, who finishes up in the Champ Motorsport Macau car number 8, top of the times, 2:27.627 from Gerard Shi in car number 3, in the Smart Life Racing car number 3, with a 2:29.196. And Charles Leung not finishing the session. Problem up at Macau hairpin. The car recovered, and third quickest with a 2:29.543. As the cars make their way into pit lane, that's the familiar sights of the race control building, and we get the opportunity to review the action from Q1 for the Formula 4 cars, the Sands China Formula 4 Macau Grand Prix.